Welcome back. Today, Darktide is finally out of early access and got the class overhaul update locked in. But from all your comments, I know you're either really excited to return to the game or skeptical if anything actually changed for the better. And that's what I'm going to be talking about here today. And there are a lot of changes. These patch notes are a mile long, so I'm just going to be focused on the key points of the good and bad things that they did. Then after this video goes up, I'll be breaking down all my new builds for every class on stream and going over all the patch notes live. And all this stuff is going to be posted in my Discord after too. But something very important is that if you didn't watch my full Darktide review and haven't played it all since launch or are brand new, it'll give you a complete overview and perspective of everything that has happened over the last 9 months. That way you can see how far it's really come. It's very objective. It covers all the good and bad stuff Darktide did, and everything else you need is linked in the description along with it. The reason this is important is because at that stage of the game with Rejects Unite, I didn't think Fat Shark was making the best game that put players first. But things started to get a lot better with the Auric Maelstrom update about a month ago. The difficulty these modes brought to the table gave you something to work towards by perfecting your gear and build so you have a chance of getting through them. Even though some of them are ridiculously easy, the other ones throw so much at you, it's overwhelming. It's hard to even tell what's happening on the screen sometimes. And altogether, it was a really good update that stabilized the player base and gave us all something to work towards. And following it up with the class overhaul update really ties the whole game together. Now, everything is a lot easier than it used to be because there's a lot less bad options to take, and they gave the players so much more power just in their talent build. So if we compare it to the old meta, a lot more things are playable now instead of just being complete memes. Our little dumpster fire was really cooking in all those tier lists and spit out some good stuff finally. There's so many new fun and strong options to explore and have fun with that you can craft your character to the fantasy that you actually want it to be. And the attention to detail and the little things always amazes me with this game, but it's these small things that really immerse you and drag you in, and it's what made me fall in love with the game in the first place. And I would say that each class has like 2 S tier builds now that gives you a ton of weapon options to choose from, which is a massive improvement from the last meta. And there's a bunch of side or meme builds that can still be really competitive, and with enough practice any build has always been good enough in a pre-made. But if you play random queue games like I usually do, then you need to bring a big boy build to do big boy things and clutch most of the time. But overall, the character changes are genuinely not just good but amazing. The amount of choice you get now gives you a ton of player agency, which is something we haven't seen before. Moving so much power into the skill trees and making a bunch of weapons baseline better is really good for the long-term health of the game and helps make crafting not as relevant, thank God. But you would think with all the player focused choice and all the love the talent trees got that crafting would also do that. I know this is a shocking development, but they didn't fix crafting, and for some reason these absolute degenerates still for some reason think this is a good system. The new CM did say something about it, so I'm assuming we'll see something fixed about it. But over the last 9 months, the majority of feedback I've gotten was from people quitting over the dog shit crafting system. There's no other way to put this. Crafting is a massive artificial playtime inflation that just sucks dick to participate in. And even though you don't need the overpowered super weapons to participate, the game pushes you to think that you do and participate in a system that feels terrible to use. The layers of RNG that go into this are really disturbing considering how easy the solution is to all this. Allowing people to buy blessings with weekly tokens would fix a lot of the blessing RNG issues almost overnight, and letting us use diamantine, which you end up with an abundance of to remove locks on items, would completely fix this system, and it would change people's perspective on the game overnight drastically to be like, okay, no more garbage RNG, this is fun now. I promise you nobody is leaving this game because they have too many god rolls. It just makes us play more. The game's a lot more fun when you can craft and choose the thing that you want when there's so many different options. I have everything almost super god rolled because of the crafting exploit from the last 2 months that let us do it for free. And most people do that kept on playing. But a quick TLDR to god rolling for newer returning people so you don't have to suffer through the system too much is you buy your gray items from Brunt, you roll the best ones up to purple. If you get one good perk or blessing, you take it all the way to tier 4. If all 3 are bad, you stop to save materials for the next one. But if you need tier 4 blessings later on, then you roll up all these backup purple dead items to legendary for a higher chance at a tier 4 blessing, so that way you can melt them down into the Hedrissi and put them on your shiny new weapons if you ever get them. Unfortunately, this is still the main contention point with the game. With 9 months of feedback from you guys, you think they would have learned by now, but the vast majority of people hate this system because it only exists to artificially inflate the playtime and takes away player agency. The system was originally not even meant to be like this, and they reworked it to try and keep players on the wheel longer, but it only ends up chasing people away. And with the rework of so many blessings, I really would like to see them just completely do away with any RNG on the crafting altogether. There's so many cool new blessing changes. I mean, there's just a ridiculous amount. So many of the mid or bad blessings either don't exist anymore, have been completely reworked. Nothing got drastically worse outside of like a couple of things that were ridiculously overpowered, but they're just normal amount of power now. And a bunch of bad things just got brought up to be good. I've been talking about a lot of them on streams and what locks to try and leave open, but if you need weapon help, just link whatever you have in the Emperor's Finest channel and the boys will help you out on how to roll it. And in this massive list of changes, I would just try and focus on the things that you like that got buffed and then go from there. Some of these things are disgustingly good combined with the new nodes that you have for your talent trees, and all the weapon buffs made so many things better. I think the most notable are probably the chain weapons. They're so much smoother now. The chain axe actually feels good to use now, and the heavy eviscerator is finally the holy weapon it deserved to be. And there was some reworked mechanics like Rending, which is now just amazing, and if you're a crit enjoyer like me, you probably just got the best update of your life. I also saw some people worried about the HP increases on a lot of the enemies. It's really not that big of a deal. You are so much more powerful now that it just needed to happen, and it's to the point that a lot of the old good things are being power crept out of the game altogether. So after going over the update and getting a few games in, I genuinely believe they are trying to make the best game for the players right now in this update. It's not exactly complete, but this is a massive leap in the right direction. And I'm saying this even though I was blacklisted from the playtest because someone is a little man with a big problems that didn't like my review. But luckily for me, I have a lot of friends and someone let me play on their account. The moral of this story is just because you aren't invited to something doesn't mean you're not allowed to go to it. I also understand it wasn't in my best interest to make a negative review about the game, but I would rather be reliable with an objective opinion than grab a few extra shillings and watch a game I like burned to the ground for no reason. It's the gameplay and attention to small details that have always drawn me into this game, and the movement away from forcing people into specific choices and letting people choose the play style they want is something I've always wanted to see, and I've been pushing for that kind of thing since the very beginning, so I'm really happy to finally see that make it into the game. Crafting still might be complete garbage, but at least more things don't suck, so getting random blessings really doesn't feel as bad. But that doesn't mean that it stops being a bad anti-player, pure time inflation system. There's also massive flaws with a ton of enemies on the live servers. The hot fixes over the last year basically got rolled on and off of them for mutants, bursters, and hounds more than once. So hopefully they are baseline fixed with this new update. That's at least what it says, but only time's going to tell if that sticks though. It's also no secret that the Darktide servers have been hot garbage since day one and have only gotten worse due to lack of maintenance. But there was some copium about them having to upgrade, so we'll see how that works out. I'll talk about it in my thoughts and opinions video in about a week because I'm not sure how things will run with the influx of people. But as long as they do the weekly server maintenance that they'd never done before, we will probably be just fine. And a lot of people ask me how long I think this patch would be fun for. I think it'll be fun for about 4 or 5 weeks. That's about the amount of time most people can be exposed to the crafting system before they're annoyed with it and quit the game again. But if you were thinking about coming back to Darktide, there has never been a better time than right now. The new skill trees and class overhauls really make the game genuinely feel fun and complete, and this is the first and only time I've ever recommended anyone to actually come back and play despite its flaws. I think you will have fun playing the new class trees. It'll make each character feel completely different in a lot of cases, and if you can ignore the crafting and just have things that are good enough so you don't absolutely hate the game, you'll probably have the most fun possible. Just remember, it is what it is. If you get something garbage, just move on. And make sure you remind Fat Shark that this system sucks dick so they actually fix it. They do say that they listen to players, but they haven't listened to anybody about the crafting system at all. So I would prefer the game didn't die off again over something so stupid. The more people that are playing, the more money they make, and the faster we get better updates. So I look forward to seeing you out there in game or the live stream that'll go up after this video where I'll go over all my new builds and all the new things that I'm planning. So that's going to be all for now. Good luck. Have a great night.